There's a question that's been asked for over 2,000 years. If I'm not for myself, then who will be for me? Simple question, very powerful answer. Because at the end of the day, your preparation is yours and your work ethic is yours. Nobody can give you that and nobody can take that away. In this life and in the trucking industry, those who remain competitive are the ones who stay ready.
Came out of smoke with a flame in my chest. Southwest sun sitting heavy on my neck. Every mile I rode carved the line in the map. Now the whole damn state know the legend is back.
You are now riding with Steel Horse, the legend of the Southwest. Today we're going to talk about how to actually get hired as a flatbed driver. I've sat in TMC's orientation, I've sat in Maverick's orientation, and I'm currently out in the United States somewhere with 80,000 pounds underneath me with a lot to say. So when I talk to you about this, I'm living it. I'm not guessing at it. Please do hit that like button. Please do subscribe to the channel if this is something that adds value to you. Let's ride, baby. I'm going to talk about what orientation actually is, because I promise you it is not what you think. It is a prolonged job interview. All right. We're going to talk about what they're watching, what they're testing, the physical part of it, and what will get you sent home before you even touch a steering wheel. All right. Now, let me tell you something that they don't put in the recruiting email. Just because you're invited to orientation does not mean that you have the job. The orientation process is a prolonged job interview. From the moment you walk into that door, they are evaluating you. So act accordingly. Orientation is where they're going to find out, right, if your body can meet the physical demands that are required of that carrier before you ever touch a steering wheel. We're talking about things like picking up a steel tarp and carrying it the length of a 48-foot trailer and back. That's about 60 to 80 pounds. Real world, out in the field, tarps on the job can weigh from 85 to 120 pounds. They're going to have you climb, squat, pull, do range of motion, all of it. Pick the tarp up, throw it on top of the trailer, climb up onto the trailer, put the tarp on top of a mock setup, pull it off of the mock setup, drop it back down to the floor, pick it up, put it back. You know, anything that you could possibly do real world, they're going to have you do there. But why does it matter beyond just getting hired? Let's talk about heat-related deaths and heat-related injuries. Did you know that 91% of all exertion-related injuries is due to heat-related stress? You're on top of a trailer in 100 degrees heat, wrestling tarps that weigh more than some people. And I'll give you this little bit of advice here for the free ski, all right? Do not drink a C4 energy drink, then get on top of your trailer in 100-degree Texas heat and lift up a 125-pound tarp and try to strap that thing down, bungee that thing down with all of that caffeine in your system. I don't know how else to put it. Know your body. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. I am so beyond serious, right? Do you have listening skills, right? You're going to sit in a classroom during orientation. While you're in that classroom, they're watching you. Are you on your cell phone? Are you asking questions that were just answered 5 minutes ago? Are you paying attention, or are you just present? Companies like TMC and Maverick spend anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000 on drivers that they're just bringing in. They're not going to hand that investment to somebody who cannot pay attention, right? If you can't pay attention in the classroom, you're not going to be able to pay attention to a DOT officer on the side of the road. You're not going to be able to pay attention to the instructions from a shipper or a receiver, right? You're not going to be able to listen to damn near any instructions that you receive. It could be from a freaking attendant at the fuel island, right? They're not just going to hand that investment over to somebody like that. And if they did, the industry's going to expose that and fast. And not just people, the road signs. Yesterday I was driving up into, no, it was this morning actually. It was this morning I was driving up into Armorel, Arkansas, which is part of Blytheville, right? I think they just incorporated that area into Blytheville. And I'm going to Yamato and Nucor Yamato, and I seen a guy make a left-hand turn, which it very clearly said, no trucks. Cute, they just added these signs. There's a sign with the little red, in the slash with the truck, and also even bigger than that, no trucks, and I mean huge. And I pulled into the turning lane, and I was gonna go help him, but then me pulling into the friggin' turn, I was like, "There's no way he's gonna be able to get out of that issue by backing out of it." And then I was gonna make a traffic situation, so I kept going over to Nucor. I was like, we can't do this. But that I got it because the GPS also wanted me to make that left, but I've been in that area before, so I knew not to even attempt it. I didn't even attempt it the first time I went over to that area, and the fact that the signs was that apparent was like crazy to me that happened. There's going to be written tests, right? Load securement exams, pre-employment drug screenings. You're gonna have, just all different types of testing, like CDL knowledge exams, right? This is stuff that you can start to prepare for before you even get into orientation to start that process, right? So with all of this, it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's something that my wife and I always talk to my son about. Are you coachable? Are you coachable enough to learn something new and then exhibit it back, right, to those who are teaching it to you? That's what it's about. Being coachable and then being able to demonstrate it back to them. I learned how to properly secure a 45,000 pound coil the way your company wants me to secure that 45,000 pound coil. Not how I did it at my last company, not how I seen somebody on YouTube teach how to do it, the way the company is teaching you how to do it. And it helps to study before you go. Yeah, you can watch somebody do something on YouTube, right? But what you really want to do is get into that FMCSA knowledge. What does it say about working load limits? What does it say about, chain regulations, the different grades of chain? How many chains do you need for a 45,000 pound coil? What is linear freight, right? You can have some type of knowledge on all of that before you even show up to orientation. I promise you, that's going to make you competitive. It's going to give you one leg up on somebody who didn't watch this video, and you go into orientation and you already have started it. That gives you one leg up on maybe some of those tests that they're going to give you. All right. And that also goes into the quote that I spoke about before we even started the video. If you are not for you, right, then who else is going to be for you? If I'm not for me, then who's going to be for me, right? I have to be for me. But on the flip side, when you're out in the world, right, when you're out in the real world and you get out in the field and you're at a shipper or you're at a receiver, if you are only for you, then what does that make you? If you're only for you, then what does that make you, right? If you see somebody untarping, you can go over there and help them freaking roll their tarps real quick. I've had plenty of people do it for me. I've done it for plenty of people. Again, if you're only for you, then what does that make you? That's the second part of that same quote. Powerful quotes, right? If you know who said those, put it down in the comments and we can discuss further from there. All right, here's one that nobody talks about and discussed in Flatbed, right? People skills. You think that this is a solo job. You think you're just hopping in the truck and you're by yourself for majority of the day and you're in your own thoughts and in your own head. And technically, yes, you're correct. But you're dealing with your fleet manager. You're dealing with the planner. Not really with the planner. You'll never really speak to a planner. But they're still there in the background, right? You're dealing with shippers. You're dealing with the receivers. You're dealing with the little magnet people that do move stuff on magnets. You're dealing with forklift operators. You're dealing with DOT officers. You're dealing with loves and pilot and TA employees. I've seen people lose out on money that they cannot earn back because they didn't have people skills, right? I've seen people lose out on the job because they didn't have people skills. I've seen owner operators get banned off of properties because they didn't have people skills. I've seen company drivers get banned off of properties because they didn't have people skills, right? So if you know that you're one of those people, I mean, I really like, we got to get rid of this false bravado and this macho, like this false macho thing that's in the flatbed world. If you know you're one of those people that's always at odds, right, and it's always something wrong with somebody else, never you, maybe you should really kind of rethink this this industry and the world that you want to get into, because right, it's easier for me than when I was in working for Progressive and for Geico, right? Because I had people skills there. I knew how to do all of the mental gymnastics, but it would weigh on me, right? So it's easier because I'm not also dealing with people's problems. I'm dealing with the company's problems and the company's issues and trying to figure some of that stuff out. And maybe I got to make a side deal, every so often, like, hey, I know the company that you ordered this from sent me with the 14 feet instead of the 20 feet that you ordered, but, I did kind of drive all the way from, Duke, Oklahoma to freaking Mobile, Alabama with this. That's a long drive. And, can you just accept it? And, next time something, blah, 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 like whatever, right? I've been there, done that, talked my way out of about 6 or 7 loads now where they were like, well, we can't accept it because, this, that, and that was the wrong length, but we're going to take everything else on there. I'm like, come on, like, Duke, Oklahoma, all the way. All right, time management, right? Your clock is your paycheck. Your clock is your freedom. If you can't manage your hours of service, right, you're going to run out of time in the way wrong place. I'll give you a quick story. I got dispatched. I was always getting dispatched into these like super last minute loads into the middle of nowhere at my previous company. And I got dispatched into the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. The closest truck stop that I could find, right, was about 2 hours away. And the road that I seen some other trucks park on, the cop told me not to go back up that road. So I didn't want to go back up that road. I was like, I'm not going back up that road. A cop told me not to go back up that road. And I'm not messing up my CDL for nobody. I don't care if I see those other 2 trucks sitting up there. So my dispatcher sends me out there. By the time I'm loaded, and I'm tarped. I had somebody from Evergreen, the company Evergreen, help me tarp, and I helped him tarp. And I mean, that was the quickest we ever tarped. I think we were out of there in about 30 minutes of tarping. 30 minutes. I had 30 minutes left on my clock. The people at that, because you typically would have to go like, hey, I'm out of time. Can I stay here? And they can say yes or they can say no. The people that ran that place were already gone. They just had the open fence, so we just had to drive off at. I was out of time. I had stopped in front of these people that were they were out in front of a mailbox discussing stuff, and it was their house and it was their farmland, and it was, they had some trailers, and I said, yo, I have 5 minutes left. I had 5 minutes left. Is there a truck stop or a gas station or anywhere here where I could shut down and get a reset in? God said, that's my land right over there. You see those two trailers? Yeah, I see those two trailers. Why don't you go and pull up right next to those trailers and shut down for the night? Boom. Blessing. Pulled up next to the two trailers, shut down for the night, right? With permission from the guy that owned that land, that farmland. Yeah, bro, back up, muff. Whoo, whoo, wee. Dang, bro. And he backing up again. See, this stuff gets in the way of my video making. I can't be up here with my curtains open, man. Now, like I was saying, you'll run out of time in the way wrong places, right? You'll miss appointments. That's the number one thing. They give me some extremely, extremely long loads, right? There's no way that any driver could show up in Duke, Oklahoma, for example, again, with 5 hours left on their clock, get the driving for a next day load into even Memphis, Tennessee. That's across the entire Oklahoma, daggone there. That's across the entire Arkansas, into the very front of Tennessee, right? And then make it back to, I'm going to keep using Blytheville as an example, because there's several places you can go from there to Blytheville, and then get the driving again, right? And get back, make it back across Arkansas, and then 4 hours into the state of Texas, right? Unless you know how to manage that clock properly. These are huge, huge middle of the country states that we're talking about, that you're going to be bouncing back and forth between. These are hours long drives for one state alone. We're not talking about 2 hours from Southern Virginia to Nova, right? We're talking 4 hour drives, 5 hour drives for just one state alone, right? That's, you have to know how to work that clock and to manage your time. You have to be a self-starter. You have to be independent. Nobody's going to hold your hand out here. If you need somebody to help you make decisions for every little thing, right, then you're already wrong. You don't need to. If you know you're somebody that needs, you're in it, indecisive, and you can't make a decision, restart. Either learn how to do it or get to going. You know what I mean? Look at something else. Look somewhere else. All right, great segue. Out here, nobody's coming to save you. If you're on the road at 2 a.m. and a 70-mile-per-hour wind gust hits you and it takes that tarp, guess who's fixing it? You're going to be the one figuring out the best way, the safest way to go ahead and get that tarp off the roadway or out of the way of the roadway, or to save it before it flies off the trailer for real. And you're going to be the one like working it. Nobody's going to come out to save you at 2 a.m. All right, unless you're calling out the tow truck there, and they're probably going to not even show up till it's light outside, depending on where you're at. Right? If your load shifts, you handle it. Obviously, call safety, but they're not coming out there to help you with it. They're going to send a tow truck guy out there, and you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to be the one talking to whoever. All right, if you need your hand held through every decision, Flatbed is going to humble you, and it's going to humble you extremely quickly. You have to be the type of person that can assess a situation, right? Make a decision and execute on it alone and quickly. You're going to have to do it in the weather. You're going to have to do it in the heat, the snow, freaking 70, 50, 30 mile per hour wind gusts. You're going to have to do it under threat of tornado warnings, right? You're going to have to do it in derechos. There's one. If you know what a derecho is, comment it down below. Seen those too, right? I've seen those microbursts too. You know, that's just the area that I run in. You're going to have to learn how to be safe. You know, and that's not something that they're going to teach you in orientation, right? You're either built that way or you're building toward it, right? Either way, you have to start it now. Pre-orientation. You don't start it during orientation. There you go. Microphone died. All right. And finally, right? You see it took me so long to get through this video. The sun went down. It's nighttime. Flatbed pays more because it demands more. It demands more strength, right? It demands more awareness. It demands more more independence, right? If you really want it, I suggest you prepare for it. Prepare for it now. Start preparing for it before you even call a company, right? Also, be mentally ready. This is a lot of responsibility. You carry some heavy things, right? Just because you put chains on it or straps, there's something called G-forces. You can step on your brake so hard, you got the amount that you need on there, but you can't stop, or something breaks, G-forces works against it. It can come rolling into your cab and seriously injure or dispatch you. Not dispatch you on a load, dispatch you to meet your maker. Or it can roll off and into somebody else's vehicle and dispatch them to meet their maker. I've seen people leave orientation after the first, second, or third day and daggone there being tears, right? Because they realize the level and the weight of the responsibility that is on them. They now have a responsibility to the public to keep the public safe, and a responsibility to their family to keep themselves safe and not get injured out here on these roads, or injure somebody else, end up possibly in prison. I just seen somebody, a dry van guy, whose whole back end of his van, I don't know how it happened, in the middle of I-40. We weren't even in a low crossing area. Maybe he could have came from a low crossing area, knowing Tennessee, because I think we were in Tennessee at that point. Or he was leaving out of Tennessee and I was almost in Tennessee. But his load across both lanes of I-40, because I-40 at that side is 2 lanes. That was just general merchandise. That was just like, it looked like just a bunch of randomness, like nothing that's gonna really seriously injure somebody. But if you've seen the loads that I've had, the paper rolls, the steel coils, the aluminum coils, the I-beams, fencing products, you know, a lot of sharp edges, a lot of blunt objects, right? Stuff you don't want just flying off of your trailer. even the chain or the lumber flying into somebody's windshield, right? That's all stuff you have to consider and make sure that you yourself are ready for. Can you handle that level of responsibility before you even get out there? Before you even get into a flatbed? Before you even get into orientation, right? I don't care if it's Prime, Maverick, TMC, Western Express, or whoever else they have out here, right? I'm Steel Horse, the legend of the Southwest. Let's keep building together.